I'm just going to double check because why not? Hello and welcome, Just a Family. I am your host, Melissa Krechler. I'm an identity coach and spiritual teacher, and I brought you Just a Live TV, or giving you something to talk about live TV, so that you can start having conversations about real topics that are everyday topics. Let me know. I'm using a different microphone today, so let me know if you notice any issues. Please like and subscribe on whatever channel you're watching on, and join us on this wicked episode. So today's episode is with my guest host, Lisa Brumm, and I hope I said that correctly.
Yes.
And we are going to be talking about being the CFO of your CEO life. Who doesn't want to be the chief financial officer of their, lushly CEO life, right?
Exactly.
So I'm going to give you a moment to introduce yourself while I share the show.
Okay. Well, hello, and thank you very much for having me. My name is Lisa Brumm, and I am the CEO and CFO of My Financial Girlfriend. We are a full-service financial, educational, and consulting firm. I've been in the industry, as they say, since I was a teenager, 20 plus, 25 years, I believe. And I'm here to just help people create curiosity around their money, and especially those that are self-employed understand that there's a lot of tax advantages, and really just here to be the girlfriend that you want to, have your back and ask all the questions.
Absolutely. And there's never anything wrong with that. You want to be, the people, you want to be the person people go to when they're needing that help and they're needing, that guidance on how do I do this, or how does this work for me? So we are recording live, but unfortunately Facebook is being a turd today. So for some reason, it's not sending any of this to Facebook. I couldn't even post on Facebook that we were doing the show today. So I don't know what's going on, but we're just going to continue on. And if I have to post the replay, I'll post the replay. It is what it is. So CFO. So when we say CFO, what do you mean about being the CFO of your CEO life? What does that look like for you?
So, most people go into business with an idea like, hey, I can turn this hobby or something I'm really passionate about or something I can do in my basement and actually make money from it, right? Some of us call it side hustle, or, some of us just like throw ourselves into starting a business because we have certain skills, right? And when we do that, we're focused on getting clients or making a product and making sure that we have sales so that revenue can start coming in. So we have these, one track mind of just getting up and going and attracting new business. Okay. And we kind of leave the financial stuff to, I'll worry about that when I get my first paycheck, or my first set of revenue coming in, or you just really don't think about all the picture, right? And so a lot of things, and I can say that Americans, we're very poorly educated when it comes to money and finance. We kind of leave that to the last thing to do on the checklist, right? And so the idea is that when you're a CFO in your business and you are the CEO, you're also the dishwasher and the janitor and the phone answerer and the calendar setter and marketing, and you do all these things, but you just have one hat and you kind of have to spread yourself thin. So the premise of working with somebody like me who has a lot of financial knowledge, my base premise is that money should be accessible for information and approachable. Find somebody who you feel you can actually just lay it on the table, say all the good, the bad, the ugly, and let a financial girlfriend really kind of just help you find where all those, where we can start, where's the next action item, where do we just begin to start setting things up so it can be somewhat automated later. And so when I work with especially women in business, It's just so much easier for me to help them understand that the financial piece is not the big ugly monster in the corner. It actually is going to give you the data that you need to know where to focus your energy so you can find more sales and you can attract more clients or you can sell more product. And that's really part of my goal, is just to really kind of demystify and hopefully demythify how money shouldn't be such a cringeworthy effort.
I love busting through myths. I think I've made it part of my life's purpose to bust through myths that people think are law, right?
Yes.
Budgeting. So budgeting would be a huge one, right? I know for me in my own businesses,
Yeah.
I have the show, I have identity coaching, I have spiritual teaching. On top of that, I make healing products. So you know those heat therapy bags or the magic bags that you heat up in the microwave? I make those. Those are time consuming. You have to buy the product, like fabric.
And you just squeeze that in between doing your dishes and your laundry and making sure the kids get to
and
school.
Everything else. Yeah,
I know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I'm running plus the readings, I've got 4 or 5 aspects to my businesses that are consistently running. Mm-hmm. And I know that each one of those, I have a website for every single one of them. I have a Facebook page for all of them. There are so many things. I literally just hired my first employee 2 weeks ago. And that was because I started the show and it was easier to do that, but I'm funding that right now. Right. And I know that the show's not making money yet, right? And it's not the purpose of making money. I want the show to, sponsors and to pay for the show itself, right?
Right. But you're laying the bricks to get those things up and going. Mm-hmm. And part of the money piece, in my opinion, is that if it's just like your assistant, you may you may be putting some money out. It's going to show as a loss until you start bringing in the revenue, but you're hoping that you'll get a return on that investment, that time that you're spending now maybe to train this person and toward, so that they can understand what your needs are and fill those gaps in. It really is important. And you've got a whole, 9 months now ahead of you, so that there is times that you can make those adjustments and work towards the financial element. Because ultimately that's what we all want, is we want enough finances to cover the expenses and to make some profit. And that's the other thing I find that women tend to discount or not think of as important. And that is break even. A lot of times I work with women who are self-employed, and maybe they've done it for two years in, and they're like, I just don't see the profit in this. Well, it's because you're not thinking about profit. You're thinking of just like breaking even. If I could just make this much to cover the expenses, but you know what? You're discounting your time. Your time is worth more. And so I think as women, I think men kind of have it dialed in because they take the emotional pain from it. They just are very rational, very analytical. And I don't find that women tend to do that. It's like, oh, I wonder if they can afford my prices, right? And I think that's one of those myths that I really hope to bust out, because, business is business, and doing a service and somebody willing to pay for it is why you're doing what you want to do. So I'm not saying don't make money and don't be profitable, but we have to think of that in a way that's probably less emotional, right?
Yeah. Right now, take mine, for example, my identity coaching, right? I have a 12-month coaching package, which is my signature package. It's start to finish. It's in depth as hell. And I started charging $13,000 a year for it. Yeah. That price is going up. Obviously, that price is going to be going up because it is, 12 months or 13 months worth of time. But it's a lot. It's really in depth. And the question is, can people afford it? Well, my target audience, my ideal clients can. And honestly, it's $1,000 a month, which is a lot of money. I'm not going to deny that. Absolutely. $1,000 a month is a lot of money, but, for somebody who doesn't like their life, who's just going through the motions, who is, ready to call it quits and just live life as a whatever, right? Somebody who's not necessarily wanting to give up in a permanent sense, but ready to give up and like desperate for change. That's, you're going to get that. Right.
Right.
And you have to weigh, and as women in business, you have to weigh the outcome, right? The amount of time you're putting in there, everything that you have to pay for, everything that you have to do in order to show up and be there. And I'm not just talking coaches, I'm talking everything, right?
Sure.
You've got to think of like my bags, product, my jewelry, product, time. Oh, I want it this way, or I want it this way, or, you know, all the changes and adjustments. There are so many things to consider on how much you're charging in your business. And it isn't just making ends meet or bringing that breaking even. Sorry. It's not just that. It's, you know, this business is meant to sustain me. It's meant to help me retire when I'm done and be, you know, give my family the financial freedom. That's why I'm in business. I wanted to be my own boss. I had messages to share. I know that I am unique and I can change people's lives in a way that nobody else can because it's me. Right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to do that while giving my family the experiences that I want to have. I want to be able to go to the cabin for 2 weeks or, you know, half the year or half the summer and be like, okay, I'm working from home, right? I'm working from here. I'm good. I'll host retreats, and that's my CFO. That's my CEO life, right? But
so, and that all of those things can happen, especially if you have somebody who is maybe even taking, you know, looking out over your monitoring or at least collaborating with you on the financial piece, because part of that is also the distance of just having a little bit, like, you'd rather supervise somebody doing it than you'd want to do it yourself, right? And so, not that I will do their books or anything like that, but having and surrounding yourself, because you think of any major company that has a CEO, right? The ultimate is that they have departments. They have heads of departments that are handling all the different aspects. And that, even you as a single solo entrepreneur right now, you hired your first person. Okay, well, they're going to handle this. And then having yourself, you know, hopefully you had an attorney help you set up your, you know, your business and your actual names of your businesses. And then you have, you know, and I would say with that, you need an attorney, you need to have an accountant. And even with the accountant, having a financial consultant that actually can speak the accountant language so that you're looking out for your best interest. You're looking out for your tax outcome. I mean, accountants kind of just do the work and get the taxes done. I found only very few CPAs or accountants really are just focused on the mandate to get it right and accurate. So they look at all the information that you've provided them, but they're not really projecting what could happen going forward. Maybe the bad things, but certainly not any of the opportunities that you could have. So a lot of times I'll review someone's taxes before they're ready to submit them. And I see the gaps. I see where they could have saved money from paying the IRS if they move some money from a quarterly taxes, maybe on the fourth quarter in January 15th, maybe they were able to move those over into a retirement plan, and that's the seed money to start your retirement. By doing any money into a retirement as a self-employed person, you're paying less to the IRS liability. It's a deduction. You're giving yourself another deduction. And so sometimes it's just a matter of one little tweak or one little movement of money, and now you've just saved you've bonused yourself by putting money aside in a retirement, but you also now have less in IRS taxes to pay that year because you were able to move money from your left pocket now into your right pocket and not send it to the IRS.
Oh, for sure. And who doesn't want to save sending money to the IRS?
Right. And that's the other. I mean, a lot of times I'll be on a 3-way call with somebody and I'll say, let's call your CPA and ask them X, Y, or Z, because I am a tax geek. And I think that a lot of financial professionals don't necessarily want to go down that corridor because it kind of opens up. Yeah, no, people don't want to do that. But what I'll do is I'll offer an idea, and then we'll get the CPA on and get their buy-in that it's going to work, because the IRS code is meant for all the CEOs that make mega millions and billions, as much as they are meant for a self-employment person who has 5 businesses, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You should get the same benefit, and it's just scalable to where you are at right now. And that's what I look at, is that if we're all Americans, we're all paying our the right amount of taxes, but let's make sure we get all those loopholes and tax advantages that business owners, everyone, no matter how many zeros and commas are associated with your income, everyone has the right to work with a financial planner and consultant that can get those tax advantages in your back pocket.
Yeah. I used to be, when my youngest was born, I actually started with financial planning. I was a financial planner. I was a life insurance, mutual funds, all of that stuff. And it was interesting how many times people were like, oh, I don't have money to save, or I don't have money to put away. And I'm horrible for that too. I'm not gonna. I was a financial planner, and trust me, the budgeting, all of that fun stuff, I suck at it too. But you think about tallying up everything you spend in a month, tallying up everything that you bring in a month, even if it's not consistent or what have you.
Right.
You're setting yourself up to know, okay, every month I bring in this much, or every month I have to at least have this much to pay this. If I want to put some money aside, I need this. And that gives you a framework too, to think, okay, if I know what my finances are, right? Okay, here, I'll use myself in this example, right?
Okay.
My husband is a manager at one of our local automotive mechanic services. I'm not going to shout out the company because I'm not happy with them right now.
It's probably best not to.
They don't deserve my shout out today. No, I'm kidding. I couldn't even have my husband and myself on our anniversary without their phone calls. No, they're a good company. They're a good company, but they're not paying me to shout them out.
Right.
So with that, I want to, one of my long-term goals, or even short-term goals, I'd like to do it within the next few years, is to retire my husband.
Yeah.
My husband we've been married. Our anniversary was last Tuesday. We've been married 13 years. He has busted his butt working in the last 13 years, like nonstop. And he has ridiculously, emotionally, mentally, financially, he has supported every step of my business, every step. He watches my lives. Like, I literally messaged him when this one started, and I said, honey, go check my sound. like crap, what's the link? So I messaged him the link. That's why I was looking down. Yeah. And I messaged him the link, and I said, we're not live on Facebook today because of of course,
they changed some algorithm somewhere. Yeah.
I love the lady that I hired. I love her. I think she jinxed me last week because she's been posting everywhere that we're live on Facebook Monday to Friday. And I'm like, but we're not just live on Facebook. So today, of course, we can't go live on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's worked his butt off, and he has supported every step of my way. Right. I want to be able to say, you don't have to work anymore.
Yeah, no, that's right. And that to me is just, that it's goals like that mean so much to you, and I can feel it in your heart, and I can see in every ounce of what you want to accomplish. And the beautiful thing is that it is very feasible. I say it's kind of just like, it's math. Like, really, it's only math. It's time. It's how much money and where you're going to set that money and how it's going to perform for you on the whole, right? On the big, large picture of time frame. So, and there's so many, the fact that you guys, so I'll just say the first thing I usually say is when there's somebody who works for a paycheck, a W-2 employee, in the same tax return as somebody who's self-employed with 5 businesses, it's tax magic. And the biggest areas that I help people find money that they didn't even know was usable is generally in taxes and in deductibles for insurances. Because we're so taught in how to do money in like silos. And I always use this as an example. Like when you buy a car, you go, oh, shoot, I got to call the car insurance company because we're going to drive it off the lot in 2 hours. So you call up your person or you go online and or get your insurance. But a lot of times the premium is calculated based on how high of a deductible you're willing and or can get to, because a lot of times you're just looking for price. Yeah, I can afford that, boom, done. But it might only be a $250 deductible if you were to get into an accident and needed your car to be repaired. So yeah, well, I can afford 250. That's all I can do, but I can certainly afford that at price. So those are the two things that generally go in somebody's mind when they're buying the insurance. And I'm not a car insurance salesperson, but I can tell you that if you're willing and or have if you know that you're going to buy a car and you have a few months ahead, you want to start putting a little bit of money, and it doesn't take a lot. Maybe it's $5 or $10 a paycheck or something that's now going to set up so that you have an emergency account called car insurance in case I get into an accident, right? And then you have $500 or $1,000 over time. And now you have the ability to lower your premium, because the higher deductible means that now you could be saving 20 or 30% of less premium out the door. And you have to have insurance, so that's kind of a must. But a lot of times I'm culling out extra little chump change, like the 7-Eleven jar, the penny jar at the counter. You're just taking little bits of money that you wouldn't necessarily even know that aren't already part of your fixed budget, and you're just replacing it into a new place, earmarking it. And once you've done that, you're not likely, if you have to pay the phone bill, you're not likely to take it out of your car insurance deductible account, right? So you want to name just like you would with your business, you have your website expenses and you have your marketing personnel expenses, and you just want to line those up and just earmark money here and there. Now I am a little OCD about it because I have 7 savings accounts, but they're all earmarked. And if something happened to me, my husband could pull up a statement and goes, oh, landscaping and vacation and Pearl's tuition for college. And he would see that they're all named. And that's where, he's like, oh, well, now I know exactly where all of our money is and what the purpose of that is for. And that's what I kind of help people do, is align their purpose and intention with dollars and cents. And it feels silly to start, but it really, it makes your life so much more effortless in money, because you've already pre-designed how this is going to look. And now it's just your job to start cranking out the revenue, because all the money is going to be filtered into a place for everything in its place. And you have those monies growing, even a tax paying account. If something happened to me, God forbid, this year, my husband would go, okay, well, Lisa's business owes this much in taxes, so here, this is the account. I hope it's enough, and he would be talking to the people that we do our taxes with. But the idea is that you're taking, I always loved doing this with my husband at the beginning of the year. It's like, okay, what are we going to do this year? Are we going to buy a new car? Are we going to go on a vacation? Pearl's got 2 more years in college. So, what's our things? What are our intentions? What are the purpose? What is the things that he wants to retire? He wants to start his own business. And we're looking about 3 months now where he's going to have his own business, coming out of being a state employee. And he's like, okay, what am I going to do? And I'm telling him to write down, how much do you think you're going to have to spend on equipment? And how much do you think you're going to have to spend on materials? And, I'm trying to get that list for him so I could show him what his buckets look like.
I'm trying, just mentally, right? I would love for my husband to start his own business, whether that's a YouTube channel of his favorite topic, which is what we're talking right now.
Yeah.
Or, just something that he loves.
And it just inspires him to be a better. Yeah, no, it's lovely.
But he's like, he fights me. He fights me. And I don't think he's like purposely trying to say, no, I don't want to do it or anything like that. It
takes some courage to do what you're doing.
to become the position that we're in, CEOs, CFOs, taking that chance and taking that risk, right?
Yeah.
For him to, there's a lot of insecurities, and I'm not saying my husband's insecure. It's not that, right? It's a scary
venture to do something on your own. Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, male, female, how old you are, what situation you're in. We all have those moments. I had them.
Yeah.
shoot, starting the show, right? Hiring my first person. I was
Yeah.
just like, whoa, what am I doing? Am I getting like, is this going to be okay? Am I like, and it's beneficial. It's working out, and I'm not regretting it. So it's like, oh, this is great for me.
Yeah.
Um,
And I want to spur up people's curiosity because when you start looking at numbers and what you're doing and how you're doing it, it makes it those that information, the data, the analytics on that is just as important as how many people you're reaching through social media, right?
yep.
And that's the idea, is that you try to use these
Well,
numbers in your business to actually make really strong and empowered decisions about where your money is going to go and how it's going to be used in a way that's most beneficial for you. And that's the beautiful thing, is that maybe, I work with people who have debt too, and maybe we're putting a plan around how to pay their debt off faster. But I can tell you, in the same time frame, I'm going to say I'm going to be the yin and the yanger, right? We're going to get your debt paid off down to zero. But anything that we can stick over into it, like anything. No, I call it the no-brainer amount. Maybe it's $10 a month. It could be any amount. But you're paying down your debt, and you're also then building up a savings account in the
yeah.
same time frame. So it's like icing on the cake, and that's really what it's just sometimes people get overwhelmed, and it's just too much, and the anxiety and the stress. And all I want to do is just take little tiny bite-sized doable action steps that help people go, oh, okay, this wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, right?
Yep. I probably spend, and I'm going to be honest, I probably spend 5 to 10 grand a year in my business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's materials. And trust me, when you're buying crystals and you're buying fabric and you're buying rice that's $37 a bag, it adds up, right?
Right,
But at the same time, I'm I'm selling one bag at $40,
right,
right? So it's like, you have to be able to, it's not necessarily, and like I said, when I started this, I have 5 businesses basically, right? Like I have 5 different areas to my business. Each of them requires its own things. I have 3
right.
websites. I have 3 calendars. I have, so I'm paying a little bit more for that, but you don't have to start off that way. So for
Right.
anybody watching who wants to become a CEO or wants to become an entrepreneur or a
Yeah.
business owner of any sort, there are ways to mitigate or lessen the amount that you're paying at
Yeah.
first. And that's totally fine. All I paid for when I first started was cards. I was doing tarot readings and I was doing oracle readings online for 4
Right.
hours on Facebook. I didn't have to pay for Facebook. All I
Right.
had to pay for was the cards, my time, and the internet. That's literally all I had to pay for in order to do that, right? And then building that awareness of what I did and showing people my value, and that brought in clients. Same with the jewelry, right? Making jewelry, posting it online. You can do it in stages. You can start
Yes.
off small, do it in stages, see how that goes, right? And put some money aside and then go to the next stage and the
Yeah.
next stage and the next stage. You don't have to have massive amounts of training. You don't have to, as long as you're good at what you do and you know what it is. Now, I am not, and I will caveat this as much as I possibly can. There are so many coaches right now in the industry, and they're only going to become more.
Yep.
Don't go to some random training and say, I don't know what I want to do to be a coach. I struggled trying to figure it out. I knew
It's
that I was meant to be a
I
coach.
I see it as an addiction, because it's like, I want to go to this training, or I want to have that coach, or I want to do, and it's like there's an addictive, it's almost, spending more
I
than you.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, at one
to
point, yeah.
me, it's like, once you get that under your skin, I see so many women. Portland is filled with life coaches, and they all do something, with a little bit of a twist, or they have, and again, it's personality based, or it's their
Yeah.
skill sets. And I just feel that, Having a business coach is not a bad idea, but I would only consider doing a business coach if they could promise a return on my investment. Like if I spent $13,000, I want to make sure that can I make 20 and recover the 13 and still have some profit over it. So
The
that's the thing.
the issue with that, and I've worked with I've had multiple business coaches, and while they've all taught me something different, um, and I'm going to say this even for my own business, is if you're not willing to, so I could pay any coach 20 grand right now,
Right.
And say, and they could say, oh, if you follow these steps, which is what I tell my clients, if you follow these steps, you're going to see a difference, right? But if I don't follow the steps, it's not going to happen.
No, there's got to be a lot of
Right?
work.
There is a lot of that. And my point on the coach's end is there are a lot of coaches who will go to these trainings, who will go follow business coaches, will be taught how to do something a certain way.
Mhm.
And they have no idea. Like they'll do all the marketing and they'll get clients, but they don't know how to coach.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying the concern comes in for me is the oversaturation. I've seen a lot of coaches online ask for what should I do in this situation? What should I do in this situation?
It's learned experience. I know there's just, I think, I could go into a whole big tirade about that because I think the idea is that if somebody asked me, Lisa, help me figure out this on my business. And to me, like I said, to me, it's math. I take out the emotion. I want to relieve the stress and relieve the anxiety that people are holding over it. But I feel that knowledge really is the source of that solution. The more you know, the more that you know based on what your time frames are and what you want to absorb out of it is so important because it really does give you a lot more peace and ease of, I mean, sometimes I'm just telling a client just to, all you need is 2 more clients a week. That's it. And you would be over the top in profits, right? Or you just need 1 more client to hit your mark and then you're at break even. And I talk like an accountant, but I make it sound like a girlfriend because I really care. I really care to make sure that I'm compassionate and there's no judgment. There is no judgment. I have heard everything. I feel like I've heard everything. People during the pandemic have had to put their rent or their house payment on a credit card. I get it. You're surviving, and survival mode is a different mindset than a thriving mode. And taking that leap over is really hard, much like your husband. If he wants to be self-employed, there's just going to be a lot more input he's going to need, education and reassurances and some other things that make him want to just take that big leap. Because once you do, you have to, you land on your own feet.
Yeah, and we have an income goal in mind. When I'm making a certain level of income, that's when he will decide whether he wants to retire or not, right?
Right.
But I finally convinced him to get started on the YouTube channel beforehand, just to get himself ready, right? And get his enjoyment. Practice. Because right, he's got something that he's very much into, and he wants to start talking about it and doing stuff.
And for him, it might be a side hustle until he can see where that trigger point is for you, right? And say, oh, the bank account now has X amount. Oh, yay, now I can think about it. Same for my husband. I mean, even people who want to retire, there's a whole nother mind shift that happens because of people thinking, well, I'm taking my 8 to 12 hours and what am I going to do with that? And like the first month or two, the first month or two, you can only kill so many zombies in these, games and everything. Yeah. But after that, it's like you still need purpose. And most people would not thrive without some sense of purpose or fulfillment, right? And that's really part of that whole shifting from one foot to the next and seeing what's going to work out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the financial pieces are really, I think, we kind of blow it out. I think also we kind of blow it into proportion that it's more than we have to. Like I said, it's that monster in the corner. I just won't look. It won't go. It'll go away. And the denial piece really gets people in a little bit more stickier waters. But we definitely, there's always a solution. I have something for your viewers actually, that if they go to the website, I have something called the top 15 money hacks. And these are just little post-it notes with little scribbles of information that, like review all of your insurances, make sure you're paying the right deductible so you can lower your premium. Look at your your bills that you're paying every month, your Hulus and your Disney Pluses and all those, like how many subscriptions do you have going on? Yeah, because and I really hate the word budgeting. I call it cash flow, because it comes in, it goes out, and then whatever hopefully is left over is really the number that we're trying to increase. And so, is there some things that we can cut out? I would never tell somebody not to have a mocha every morning, because I would scratch their eyes out if I couldn't have mine.
Oh, but, yeah, you don't have to deny yourself, right?
Right. I just look at the people's fixed budgets. The bills that always show up. Is there different ways that we can pay it? Is there different ways that we can mitigate some of the cost? And that's really part of what I kind of help shake people, at least $200 to $300 extra a month, without taking away from their lifestyle and the things they enjoy to do.
Yeah. That's like dieting.
Yeah, right? See, budget and diet, obviously, I don't like either of those words.
Neither do I. Totally, neither do I. But that's the thing, right? Is people get hyped up on diets, and they think that they have to starve themselves of things or deny themselves things, right. And then that creates more of a problem, right? Then you binge eat, you binge spend. So dieting and finances can go hand in hand there. And I've definitely seen a lot of issues with that. I've seen people complain that they don't have enough money to buy the things that they want, or they, but on the other hand, when they pay all their bills and they don't have anything left over, to just go and buy hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then they'll go spend hundreds of dollars and not have enough money to pay their bills. So it's like,
it's a lot about prioritizing.
That happy medium. Yeah.
Right. It's prioritizing. The other thing is that tend to, like, I will challenge some people to say, like, gosh, if I could help you find I may look at some of their numbers and go, well, in your business, I bet we could find about $300 extra a month. What would you do with the $300 if you magically had it, in your hand? And so gathering what's important from that person, like, oh, I would pay down debt. I go, okay, or I would improve our website, or I would improve the way that, or hire another person or something like that. And it's like, once you know what their goal is behind extra money, then that's where we start laying the groundwork for what buckets we're setting up for that person so that they can receive that money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I want to share is that everything comes down to your emotional. Your mindset and your emotions, right? So if you believe that you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money. Mm-hmm. If you believe that you're never going to make it, or you're not going to have enough money, then you're not going to. Your mindset and your beliefs on what you're capable of or what your future holds will dictate where you go.
Yeah.
The other thing is, self-sabotage. Emotions, though. If you're emotionally charged by a situation. So let's say you're in debt. If you're in debt and you're emotionally charged because you're in debt and you're like, I can't find my way out. I don't know what to pay. I don't know what to do. And you're hyperventilating and you're anxious and you're scared and you're worried. Mm-hmm. Can't sleep. Those emotions will stop you from seeing how you can actually get out of it.
Nope, that's very true.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that goes with everything. And that's part of me being an identity coach, right? Is everything that we do, if you are emotionally charged by any situation, you are not going to see how to get out of it. You're not going to see how to deal with it properly. You're going to stay stuck in that situation because that's all you think about. That's all you're focusing on. That's all you're allowing your energy to portray. And that's not going to help you in the long run. So remove those emotions.
Well, and I think by removing it would be instill some curiosity, because curiosity really squelches the I can't, right? It's like once you open your mind towards like, well, how could I? Instead of saying what can I do, you need to ask how can I do it? Because the how then automatically like I find helps people realize that there's things out there that might be impossible, but now it's more possible because I just figured out a how. I could, your brain wants to help you figure it out. And the minute you ask yourself, how can I do it? Then you go, oh, I can make some more phone calls, or I could go and do this advertising on Facebook, or I could do, you just start thinking about all the possibilities. And that is what I think gets people excited and gets them out of that trap, that sabotaging trap.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. So what do you think? So the starting point obviously is taking a look, right? Doing a deep dive. What are you making? What are your goals? Where are you at right now? Right. And how can we make it better? How can we put aside? How can we, all of that?
Absolutely.
What kind of tips would you share for people to be the CFO in their CEO life, right? Like how do they balance those two?
Yeah. If I guess I'm talking to those that are maybe if they're technology oriented, there's so many programs out there that can help you just get that organization over your money. One is like mint.com. I use it. I've used it for 20 years, like when it first came out. And it actually allows you to type in what your categories are, just like I was describing. You can do it on the income side as well as the, all that comes in, and then just have it dispersed down into the different buckets of savings or into the places that are going to be expensed, right? And it's fun to me. I know I'm kind of a geek this way, but I think that just having a relatively good idea, like I don't even know necessarily the particulars, but I'll ask, how much have you made or averaged over the last year or two or last 3 months, right? And they'll go, oh, this much. And then when we actually look at their bank statements and go, oh, you actually made more, or you didn't make that much, but I always work to the back end, the lowest denominator, the lowest common number, so that we can find improvement. And there's always a way, and having somebody with that objectivity sometimes is what you actually need. Because like, I actually need a financial girlfriend to do my stuff. Like, I love doing it, but it's like it's the last thing on my checklist to do in the day when when you're
doing it for other people.
Yeah, but when you do it for somebody else, it's so much easier just to have that objectivity and that kindness and compassion to let them hopefully see it for themselves that you've survived. Okay, we're coming out of this, whatever that looks like, and you're in survival mode, but now it's going to be time for you to look towards thriving or look towards the ways that you can want to improve your life. And if we live on the grid, we have to do it with money, and money isn't a bad thing. It's just a tool to get us where we want to go, and that's really kind of breaking it down in bite-sizable pieces. A CFO also would give you, hey, watch out for this, or don't do it that way because it's going to cost you more in the long run, right? So there's a lot of times where, you might go, I just had a conversation with somebody this morning who's going to turn 65 in a couple months. And she's like, I know that I have full Social Security benefits when I turn 67, but heck, I need that money today. So I'm going to go ahead and sign up, in my opinion, early. But at 65, you have the ability to get out what you've put in at a lower amount. And I go, okay, well, let's look at the numbers, because over your lifespan, you'll get this much. But if you wait a couple years, you're going to get this much. So there's just a lot of times it's like and it's a choice, and there's no bad choice. If she wants it and needs it right now, then, nothing's going to stop her from just dialing it in and loading it up on her computer and getting what she needs. But we just sometimes don't have that long range view of it. And I think that's part of the other CFO part of your life is look at the now and the immediate, but having a little bit more of an eyesight towards the vision of where you're heading and the pathway that you're going to get there.
Yeah. And you think about anybody in business, you think movies, TV shows where there's that hierarchy, right? Where it's the owner, the management, all of it, right? There's no emotion involved in all of that. None.
It's
right?
get a job. Yeah, here's my
Hiring.
job. This is what I'm supposed to do. And this, yeah.
Right? So if you think of a CEO who's running a company, right? They're not emotionally attached to the outcome. They are and they aren't, right?
Right,
But the
right.
day-to-day job, if you have a CFO under you, right, and you go and you say, what are the numbers for this? There's no
Right.
emotion involved. It's
Right.
what are the numbers? Where are we cutting corners? How can we make
Right.
this profit better? Right.
Right.
And it's not an emotional target, right? It's
No, it's a
we
choice. It
need to do
becomes
this because
A
it's
or
a
B,
business.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
and it's totally about, and that's the beautiful thing about it, I believe, is that you're benefiting yourself, but you're also using your wisdom, your intuition, your, all those things to help you find ways to improve. And you might be taking a step out on the right side first, but then you take that pivot and go left, and it might open up a whole new prospective way of looking at things. Your perspective has changed and all of that. And so just having sometimes to bounce ideas off of is, you have your husband and you guys can talk about stuff. So sometimes having that person who's a little less involved helps. That's what I think, especially if I look at my own money, I go, right? But if I'm doing somebody else, I go, oh, here, we can do it this way. And then you have that, and then you can still have access to this. And so just really, I think part of our problem as Americans not being, one, educated very well with money, because we're not taught things that are relative to our time. I remember going to high school, my last semester of being a senior, I had to take a money and cents class. And in my high school, it was taught by the baseball coach, and he really just needed something to do until 3 o'clock. He was just he was just going through motions. He's telling 17-year-olds how to balance a checkbook, for gosh sakes. It's like we can't even open an account until we're 18, so that doesn't mean anything to us. And it's like they're not giving us relative information that's important to us enough. It's more book knowledge versus real life, and that's where hopefully I can help step in on the real life and know that, you've had to pay your rent on a credit card, but guess what? There's a way to pay that off faster than you think, and we're going to beat the credit card companies for doing it. Or taxes. Taxes and insurances and debt are usually the areas that we start with because those are the pain points. And then from there, we find solutions and ways to move money into the positive side, like you're building up your savings or building up other assets. Yeah.
Again, I'll stress to anybody watching or listening to the replay or listening to the podcast, take the emotions out of it. I'll use the show as an example. I am a top CEO in this show. This is my show. I'm absolutely and utterly in love with the show. I have there's tons of emotion and passion there, but my businesses are my brands. Mm-hmm. They're my businesses, and they have to be treated as my businesses, right? I am not hard, but I have rules, right? I have rules for my guests, and Lisa can atone to this or agree to this. There's no promotion on my show unless you're sponsoring your episode. There's no promotion, right? Sure. I have sponsors that will come in and sponsor episodes or sponsor websites. Mm-hmm. I require all of my co-hosts to like this, whatever social media accounts they're on, they have to like the show. If somebody doesn't show up for a pre-screening interview, they don't come on the show. Mm-hmm. If somebody cancels an episode, they don't get to come back on the show. I have to be,
well, because your time is worth something. Like your time, you're honoring your time,
too, right? Yeah. It's not just that. It's not only that though. It's the fact that this is a business, right? Mm-hmm. This is just like every other talk show. It's like Oprah. It's like Ellen. Nobody's going to go to Ellen and say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it. No, right? It's you have that respect, right?
And we just don't see them on our show. Yeah.
Exactly. I respect my business and my brand and my show enough to, and I respect the purpose of it, that I expect and require commitment. Mm-hmm. And the same goes with the finances, right? excuse me, I could fully fund this show for the entirety of the show, however many years it lasts, because trust me, it's going to be years. But at the same time, I know that it's a business. So I know that I need sponsors. I know that I need to hire people to do a lot of that back end work and figure out what's going on. Like, I'll be hiring, I'll be going to a higher package and hiring over the next coming weeks to make sure that, like what happened today, we're not live on Facebook, right?
Right.
So to have somebody in the background making sure that that works and fixing that for me, that's, you have to be coherent of what you need, what your business needs to run.
Yeah.
Right. And that goes for your personal life too, because if your personal life is going to shit, if your personal finances are going to shit, you need to fix that.
Because much like a CPA would say, keep your business money away from your personal money. I don't have that strict of a rule because it's really, you're doing this so you can have personal money. It's all, it's all your money. You're the decider of all of it. Now keep it separate and track it. Yes, of course. I'm not saying not to do that. But what I'm saying is that you're looking at your businesses to make sure that when the income comes in, it's going to supply what your personal life is doing and what you want to accomplish in your personal life. So that's kind of why we, sometimes people say, well, just look at my business numbers. I'm like, great, I will do that. Absolutely. But then what's left over and where are you going to tell your money to go is really the most important thing for me, because I can help somebody pay down debt and they have now $500 extra a month because they're not paying payments. But unless you do something different that you've done before that got you there, you have to now tell that money where to go. And that's the only way that you get that ease and that my buckets are filling up without me having to do any new work. I'm just going to continue to work that I'm doing.
Exactly. All right. Well, any other tips you'd like to share on becoming the CFO of your CEO?
Yeah. Well, as we're coming into tax season, have your, I think there's some questions. If you don't have that kind of conversation yet with your CPA or your tax preparer, a couple of questions you could ask right out of the get-go, because they don't tend to look forward. They tend to, get everything that was done correct and accurate, right? But if you look at your taxes or they send them to you before you submit them, then maybe the question could be, is there any other tax laws that I could use to benefit myself without having to pay X amount in the IRS, right? Or is there any other additional ways that I can set myself up for next year so that I don't have this kind of a tax situation or pay that amount later or, last year? And so
how can I maximize my return or minimize my payment, right?
But if you use those words, if you say use tax law in your benefit, then they're going to look at you like, oh, wait a minute, she might be a self-employed person, but you're right, there was a new CARE Act that came out and she might be able to get this or that. And so really having that conversation so that you know that you're doing all that you possibly can now so that you can set yourself up into the future for building more money into your account and your profit line, really. So that's kind of one thing with tax season coming up upon us. I mean, have you ever heard all those commercials that say you can get billions and billions of dollars back? Because most of us, are for fear of having to pay billions of dollars, would rather get a tax refund. So that's really what I'm trying to caution people, is that there should be a real dollar amount. There's a number that you, based on how much you made and some deductions, this is how much you owe. Now, if that's the amount you owe, is there any other tax deductions I can take advantage of? And in some cases for self-employed, you generally have anywhere from 8 to 15 different other ways that most CPAs won't even think to use again, with you, because you don't fall under the big C Corp category. Well, that's what I'm prompting people to is to ask more questions about that tax bill, so you get more money back from what your endeavors are. That the tax season one. Sometimes just like when you change your batteries in your fire alarms, twice a year, that's always a good time to review your fixed expenses in your business and your personal life. But just, Is there a way, like, does my cell phone, is there any new deals going out there with other carriers versus the one I've been with for 25 years,
Yeah.
Call them up, ask them if, hey, they're giving, X company is giving us a discount. I might switch. What can you do for me? So constantly negotiate. I think Americans don't negotiate enough. And so that's another thing, is just to review.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
More cash is better. It's like Jerry Maguire. Show me the money. That's all you want is more money.
And I think anybody who is a CEO or wants to be a CEO, finances are going to be huge. And you need to become that CFO. So I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that's just about it.
Thank you for your time.
We're basically done here. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions for either myself or Lisa, please feel free to reach out. Links are in the description, or you can check us out at www.justalivetv.com. All of my episodes, past and present, will be on the episodes page. So you can find Lisa there with her own page and all of her contact information. And I keep saying, and I rewatched one of my videos yesterday, and I'm like, why do I keep doing that? So I'm trying really hard not to do that anymore, but it's kind of just automatic. Yeah. So thank you very much, Lisa, for joining me. I wish you all the best. And I think that today's topic about becoming that CFO in your CEO life is hella important. I think that everybody who wants to or is becoming a CEO should know about their finances and removing those emotions. And for everybody, thank you for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe, that you follow the page on whatever social media platform you're at. I'm always looking for guest co-hosts, feature topics, as well as sponsors for the show. Please reach out, www.justalivetv.com. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.